visitor.
What in the name of God is that?
As the thing came nearer, they could make out what seemed to be a small man, though a man unlike any that they had ever seen before.
Please, go inside.
Everybody, you stay put and you don't make a sound, or I'll whip your ever-loving hide if you do. Oh, Lord.
Lucky and Billy Ray would take no chances. Horrified, the two men raced back inside and grabbed their shotguns as the others looked on in stunned silence. Back outside, an unearthly apparition was moving silently towards them.
What on God's green earth is it? I don't think God's got nothing to do with it, Lucky. It's getting closer, Lucky. Looks just like a little man. I ain't ever seen a little man with ears like that. A goblin. That's what it is. A goblin straight out of the pits of hell. A goblin. What are we gonna do, Lucky? Shoot it. Shoot that.
But it didn't hurt them. It just kind of rolled up in a little ball and kind of rolled back down the hill over there where the ship was.
Inside the house, the men were confused and dazed, not certain what to do next, while the rest of the family, especially Glennie Langford and the children, remained vigilant next to the bed.
Land of Goshen, Lucky, you're nearly scaring those kids half to death.
For God's sakes, woman, there's a thing out there.
What kind of a thing is it, Billy?
Kind of thing the good Lord never intended be in this universe. Now, do you hear me, woman? We have got to protect our home.
Oh, good Lord, Lucky, why did you have to go and shoot it? It probably never meant us any harm. You might have killed it.
You ain't killed it, Glennie. I mean, our bullets sound like they hit nickel plate or something. It ain't human. And what ain't human don't deserve to live.
My name is O.P. Baker, and I was in the house that night, and I saw them creatures.
O.P. Baker, the brother of Eileen Sutton, was 30 years old in 1955. The farm laborer lived in Hopkinsville at the time, but often stayed overnight at the farmhouse where the person with whom he rode to work could pick him up more conveniently than in town. Today, he is the only known adult survivor who was present on the night of the close encounter at Kelly.
Back then, I wasn't going to no church, and I started church, and I've been going to church ever since. I remember we all were sitting there, about, I'd say around 8 o'clock. We heard a noise on top of the roof.
Listen, Mom, listen. There's something on the roof.
It is told that these beings were on the roof, scratching and clawing, trying to get through the ceiling, and the children and mothers and such that were in the house at the time were trying to hide, trying to get away from this. They were all scared.
Make it go away, make it go away, please make it go away.
There was one on top of the house on the awning. One of them was scratching on the window. I mean, they were like curious, wanting to see what was going on. As far as the guns being shot, I don't know whether it was on the far side of the house or this side. I do know that they said they come over.
They say that curiosity killed the cat. But in this instance, the curious just grew more curious as the unknown beings once again emerged from the shadows.
Well, he said they would come up to the windows and they just kind of stick to the side of a house like a spider could. And he said they just kind of peek around the windowsill with their heads and some old big beady eyes, and they just look in the window and just stare.
Mama screamed. I jumped up,
out of the bed, and I looked out the window, and I saw them. They were about 3 foot tall, had pointed ears, webbed feet and hands, big round eyes.
Well, it had great big ears. I mean, big ears. And you could shoot them and wouldn't hurt them.
And he said they would stare until one of them blew them off the windowsill. He said, once you blow them off the windowsill, he said they run outside and shoot one again, and by the time they get back in the house, look at the other window, there was another one looking in the window.
Don't shoot those things, Nancy. Don't be stupid.
Stay back and stay down. We got interlopers.
Yeah, I was real scared. I was in the corner of the house on the floor, and everybody was running around there just panicked. I didn't know what was going on.
Christ almighty, what the hell is going on here?
Hell is the right word, Billy. What do you think's going on?
God help us, Glennie. I don't know. I just don't know.
I think it's demons more than likely, Billy Ray. Hell has indeed come to this little house tonight.
I think I killed it, Lucky. I couldn't have missed at such a close range.
Well then, why didn't it lie prone to the ground, JC, just like any normal human being? You do know what happened the first time we shot it?
Well, I don't care if it's the devil himself. I'm going outside to finish him off. Him, his minions from the deep, dark outer space or wherever he comes from.
I believe it was a 20 gauge they was using, my father had. I believe Billy Ray had a 22. JC had another shotgun. And they was all three shooting at these things. None of them could make a hit to actually kill one of the creatures.
One of them green men reached down and got him by the hair of the head.
One of the little men picked him up by his hair. And then that's when they started shooting. And all the little kids, like my age, were under the beds. They were terrified.
I can't say for sure, but I do know that there are facts proving that something of a higher power had landed in their backfield.
State, when they made a direct hit on the creatures, it sounded as if their bullets had struck the center of a metal bucket.
They just never could kill one of them. It just seemed to bounce off. He said it was a battle. They get on the windowsills and it scared the women. They had to come in and blow them off the windowsills, and then they get seen on the windowsills, and they run outside and see where they were, and they'd be in the trees, and they blow them out the trees.
Oh my God, shoot it!
After taking a direct hit, the creature seemed to defy gravity as it floated off and landed in a grassy area several yards away. Cautiously, the shooters moved towards the spot where they believed it had fallen. To their surprise, a luminous glow appeared on the ground where the thing had been.
These beings, these creatures, whatever they were, wherever they were from, displayed almost a very unusual intrigue and, I guess, curiosity that is uncommon with this type of phenomenon.
According to the witnesses, the creatures seemed capable of extremely rapid movement when running away, and it was impossible to tell whether there were several of them or whether there were only 2 or 3 that disappeared from one place and reappeared very quickly in another. After a short time had elapsed, there were no further signs of their inhuman visitors. Seizing the opportunity, they gathered their family together along with the children and decided to make their escape.
And according to the people interviewed at the time, those individuals in the car were in a high state of excitement, and that's putting it mildly. They were beside themselves with fear, with anxiety, with wonder, with apprehension.
Suttons and Langfords eventually arrived at the Hopkinsville Police Department. At the police station, the officers on duty were struck by the family's behavior to take immediate action. Although skeptical, the Christian County Sheriff's Office, which was located here in the same building with the city's police force, sent a deputy sheriff and telephoned the staff news photographer of the Kentucky New Era. Almost immediately, Police Chief Russell Greenwell was appraised of the situation at Kelly. Calling him at home, the desk sergeant on duty that night informed him, "A spaceship has landed at Kelly." "If this is your idea of a joke," Greenwell answered, "it's not mine." "I'm not joking, Chief. The state police are sending units there." It wouldn't be long before Greenwell and other law enforcement officials made the trip down lonely country roads back to the deserted farmhouse.
And immediately the police went into an investigation of the house and the surroundings to determine if there was any evidence they could find that would give credence to the story.
One of the troopers who went to Kelly that night was Officer Russell N. Ferguson of the Kentucky State Police. While he admitted that the family seemed to be in a high state of anxiety when he and the others arrived at the farmhouse, the little men were nowhere to be seen.
The area was thoroughly walked over, very much so. Behind the house, in the woods, the field behind the house, and around the house. But they were telling us about the people that were on the roof trying to get into the house. They had tried to repel them to keep them from coming into the house. They'd shot at them several times, and obviously they didn't get in.
While it is true that others in the Kentucky countryside had been arrested for illegally operating moonshine stills, officers on the scene could find no evidence that the family had been drinking that night. According to those who knew her, Glennie Langford, the solemn matron of the Sutton clan, never allowed alcohol on the premises, especially when children were present.
Aunt Glennie was a very moral woman. She was a Pentecostal lady. She went to church and she didn't have nothing on her mind but serving God and raising her family to the best that she could. But something terrified Aunt Glennie there that night, and she moved out.
The first officer to arrive at the farmhouse had noticed a few shotgun shells in the front yard, but none of these were picked up and saved. When a local newspaper photographer and reporter interviewed Lucky and Billy Ray outside, their reaction was, of course, skeptical to say the least.
Well, I described him about as good as I can.
I could see the fear in his eyes when he told me the story. And I know for a fact it happened. My father would not make up a story like this. He was not that kind of man. He was a country man. He believed in making a living for his family, and he didn't believe in playing jokes. I ain't never known him to pull a prank. Never.
You want to take some pictures of them, hon?
I think I got enough pictures for now.
Okay.
In the months and years to come, offended by the apparent lack of belief in their story, many of the family members rarely discussed the incident for fear of public ridicule. While police and several MPs from nearby Fort Campbell were unable to turn up anything conclusive about the reported creatures, Chief Greenwell was impressed by the family's apparent fright. In an interview with UFO researcher Isabel Davis several months later, he told her that the Suttons and Langfords were so scared that they refused to go inside the house until after the officers had completed their investigation.
I mean, there's evidence that those people were shooting out there at something tonight. Plenty of bullholes everywhere. Surprising, no sign of moonshine either.
One point of skepticism brought forth by the officers at the scene was the discovery of